Hello and welcome to Fresh Perspectives. My name is Gail, and my guest today is Tina Newell. The reason that Tina's coming on so often is because we can't go over all the information she knows in one episode. So this is episode number 3 for Tina, and it's health-related, a health-related topic. Thank you for coming on Fresh Perspectives again, Tina.
You're welcome. I've enjoyed it.
Yeah, I've enjoyed having you. Now, this question I wanted to ask you. By the way, I've been enjoying that book you gave me the last time you were here. Yeah, I actually met Rip Esselstyn's father a year and a half ago, and that was pretty exciting for me. But anyways, what I wanted to ask you was, when I first started going through perimenopause, way over 20 years ago already, it's hard to believe, nobody told me ahead of time a lot of symptoms you would get with that. And for example, waking up at 2 in the morning and not being able to go back to sleep.
I know, that's the worst one.
So anyway, the thing of it was now I'd always eaten hot peppers without any problem and enjoyed them and felt that there were health benefits, but ever since perimenopause, the hot peppers feel 10 times hotter in my mouth than they did before. Plus, the taste seemed different. Now, what nobody told me was that when you go through that, nobody told me that you would, part of the change of life would be your taste buds changing. Do you know anything about that or have anything?
I know that if your estrogen levels change and your other hormonal levels change, it can change a lot of things. We're just on the cusp of learning half the stuff about nutrition. I mean, people have been using nutrition to heal for years, and I guess that's why we had witches. They had herb gardens, and they knew what all those herbs did, and we're just learning all that, relearning it again.
Yes.
But I'm not sure about that. I'll look that up.
You don't remember experiencing it yourself?
I don't.
Well,
I didn't really have much trouble
mainly
going through menopause. It was pretty easy.
Oh, good. You were one of the person that it was easy
Yeah.
for. Well, one other person told me that he didn't like coffee. Well, this was a man, though. But he told me he reached middle age there, and he used to love coffee, and then he didn't like it anymore. And another person, what was it? Another person told me she got to where she couldn't stand the taste of fruit anymore. So,
well, lots of things. Like, we just went through COVID. Look at what it did to our taste buds. I mean, I lost a lot of mine, and I used to be able to just taste. I could taste something and tell you exactly what was in it, and I have to really work at it now. So, and I know I like more spice now than I used to because I've lost some of those taste buds. So I'm sure, and men do go through, it's not as dramatic as women do, but men do, and they do go through not menopause, but a kind of a change too. And a lot of men take progesterone or testosterone
yeah.
because their level's lower too. So I know there's some foods like soys, they say, and I don't know that much about soy because I'm not a soy person, but they have phytoestrogens in them, I believe. I'm not positive. I will look that up and get back to you.
Oh, okay. Okay, because that was one of those things that I never heard anybody make a comment about before I was at that age. And
I'm so far past it that I haven't paid any attention anymore.
But with me, I know it's the hot peppers. So now, I mean, I can eat mildly spicy, but not those really. You know, and I've always loved Indian food, from India, and now they get some of their stuff so spiced up that I really can't stand it.
Yeah. But I'm kind of erring on more spice, so
Yeah,
Anyway.
somebody else told me that too, that she was getting to where she wanted more heat in her diet after going through it.
Well, I think Americans had such a bland diet for so long, and then we started eating like Mexican and Indian and Chinese, and we started sprucing up our diets, and now we probably tolerate heat much more, and probably there's more heat in things because of that. Yeah.
Well, today Tina has come on Fresh Perspectives mainly to talk about carbs. So we're going to start talking about carbs.
Okay, could you put the first slide up, please? So I'm just going to do a quick review about why the quality of our diet matters. That food is truly information. It instructs your body 24/7. Vegetables and different colors of vegetables and different colors of fruits contain different phytonutrients, and they control all sorts of bodily functions that we don't think about and that we're just learning about. So that's why it's so important to eat the rainbow, as they say. Food controls all aspects of health. Think about it. You need fiber so that your gut works properly. You need to get certain kinds of prebiotics and probiotics to feed your gut health. We now are finding out so much more about how gut health affects actually a lot of brain health issues and heart health issues. So that if your gut is not intact and has the correct microbiota, you're more likely to develop Alzheimer's, you're more likely to develop heart disease, you're more likely to develop diabetes and be obese also. It controls most aspects of disease. So for years, I mean, what was it? Hippocrates said, let food be your medicine and medicine be your food. So it actually, all those things prevent disease, and especially fruits and vegetables, which we don't think of as carbs. But they're full of carbs. They're just good carbs. And we'll talk about that more. And it regulates every body process that we have. So we need those phytonutrients to keep our hormones being built properly, to build our cell walls. So it helps with our genetic expression so that when a cell is replicating, it doesn't become cancerous. In fact, they've done studies where cruciferous vegetables, broccoli, kale, cabbage, they'll take a petri dish with cancer cells in them, and if they drop a liquid in, it kills the cancer cells. So it's very important to eat those kinds of vegetables at least every day, a serving of them. And that it decreases inflammation, oxidative stress. We talked about how some fatty acids are more stable and some are not. That's the oxidative stress there. It's like rusting, essentially. If you think about it, if you eat the right fats, you're not going to rust. It also keeps your gut in balance. We talked about that. And it helps you detoxify things. The fiber in fruits and vegetables and whole grains help you detoxify. It also works with your metabolism. They slow the digestive process down, which makes you less hungry and feel more full. And so it creates an ideal weight for yourself if you're eating more vegetables and whole foods. It also helps with your immune function. All those phytonutrients keep you from getting sick, getting cancer, getting everything. And they're really showing a big correspondence between gut health and mental clarity. So,
yeah, I really believe that what you eat helps keep your brain doing well.
Yeah. Well, they've found that we've always known there was plaque in people's arteries that cause heart disease, and that's the plaque in your brain that causes Alzheimer's and dementia. So that's really part of it. So if we look at, could you put up the second slide, the average American consumes? I think this is pretty shocking if you think about it, that the average American, because we eat so much processed food, we eat 152 pounds of sugar and 146 pounds of flour per person per year. I think that's huge. And those are all simple carbohydrates which turn into glucose, which our body needs, but it also leads to a yo-yo effect where our blood sugar's too high, then it's too low. When it's too low, we want to eat more. So we're eating calories that are really not feeding our cells effectively. We eat way too much sodium. 10% comes from table salt and cooking at home, and the rest comes from processed foods. And since 1970, we have increased our daily consumption of calories by 500 on average, and that's because of what's hidden in processed foods.
500 a
Calories
day.
a day,
Okay.
which is huge.
Mm-hmm.
In 1% of children and 4% of adults eat the recommended daily intake of fruits and vegetables. And we eat the average person eats 208 pounds of meat, not including seafood. So we're eating way too much protein from meat, which I do eat meat, but we're eating way too much of it, and we're not getting enough protein from beans and nuts and seeds. And seeds are full of protein. If you think about a seed, it has to have all the nutritional value in it for the seed to sprout and to start growing until it is capable of using the soil to get its nutrition from.
Mm-hmm. You know, one thing that I've learned is that did you know 25% of all women have a thyroid problem, and it's caused by the lack of iodine in the modern diet? So, and I had a thyroid problem that I got rid of. Mainly, I eat sea vegetables now.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And the iodine that they put in salt over the years, that's really not the correct type of iodine.
Mm-hmm.
The best place to get iodine is kelp and the sea vegetables and shrimp and just seafood.
Mm-hmm.
So, because there's iodine in seawater.
Mm-hmm.
Also, sea salt contains traces of it,
Mm-hmm.
which is the right iodine.
Mm-hmm. Right. So when I do buy salt, which I don't use very much of, I buy the I buy the sea salt that doesn't contain the iodide.
Yeah.
Because and I rely on sea vegetables to get my iodine.
There are also things, when you're talking about your thyroid, there are all sorts of things in the environment now that knock out people's thyroid. Heavy metals knock out your thyroid. Epstein-Barr, which used to be a virus that lived inside us and was just in there. It was an inert kind of virus. I mean, we have lots of bacteria and viruses that live in our body normally, but it kind of took over, and people who've had Epstein-Barr, which would be mononucleosis, and they think that a lot of other things like rheumatic fever is caused by Epstein-Barr,
Oh,
and
really?
a lot of other things they're doing the research now, is caused by Epstein-Barr. And if you've had any of those, it will deteriorate your thyroid pretty significantly. And later in life, you will probably be taking Synthroid, which is not necessarily the best, but if you have a thyroid problem and you take it, you know it does help. But there are other things you can eat too that have selenium in them that are good for your thyroid, and iodine. Brazil nuts.
Oh.
Brazil nuts are full of selenium, which is really good for your thyroid. So there's lots of things that we no longer eat. And we think that convenience foods are helping us to live better, but they're really killing us.
Yeah.
Can you put up this third slide, please? So the current American diet leads to chronic disease, okay? 21% of us have heart disease. And cancer, they split it up into everything. There's a lot of people that have had cancer. In our country, 2 out of 3 are overweight. 7% have chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, which would include asthma, which has been on the rise since children have been born by C-sections because they don't get that microbiota when they come through the vaginal canal.
Yeah.
Yeah. And strokes, 1 in 4 people will have a stroke. 1 in 10 will have diabetes, mostly being type 2, which is 90-some% preventable with diet and exercise. 24% have arthritis, which is being shown to be a lot related to, can be controlled a lot more with diet if we do the right diet. Alzheimer's, 10%, and it's rising every year. And kidney disease, 15%. And our kidneys are really affected by all that sodium in processed foods. Our body needs sodium. It needs so much sodium. If you're cooking from scratch and you use the sodium while you're cooking, it absorbs less than putting it on afterwards.
Oh, is that right?
Yes. So in my cooking classes, I teach people when to salt things. You know, if you're going to cook meat, if you're going to have a steak, you need to salt it 2 days ahead of time and let it sit in the fridge. And then, or other things like vegetables, you salt right before you make them, or pasta. You always salt the water with pasta. And then the pasta absorbs less, but it does get enough to flavor it. Pasta isn't made with salt because it makes the pasta tough.
Oh, does it?
Yeah. So that's why you always salt the pasta water.
I know, like with when you go to the grocery store and you see the 100% whole grain pasta, it'll usually say that the only ingredient is the whole grain flour, the whole wheat flour or whatever. So, they must use some water or something.
Water, yeah. You have to have either eggs or water. Yeah. I mean, if you're going to make pasta, you either need to use eggs or water. And a trick I found recently, and it works great, is that when you're making bread, if you make bread at home, if you don't put the salt in right away, like usually you put the salt and the yeast and the flour all together and you let it sit, if you just put the yeast with the flour and let it sit for 10 or 15 minutes, then add the salt, the gluten is processed better.
Oh,
it forms better, and the bread is lighter.
I used to, I've gotten to where it's only once in a while, you know, for a special occasion or something, but I can remember I used to bake all of the bread that we ate at our house. Well, there was a situation that came up in my life where for 4 years I was not able to do that because I just didn't have the time. But now, I don't know, I'm just not as motivated as I was before then. You know, you get away from doing things. But did you know that you could use for the liquid in baking bread, maybe you know this, you can use either the water you've used for boiling potatoes or dried beans. Makes really, really good bread.
I save all my scraps and put them in the freezer in a bag and make my own, all the vegetable scraps, and then I make my own veggie bouillon with it. So
yeah,
I do that. And I used to cook all our own bread, but I make everything from scratch pretty much. But you have to draw the line somewhere. We just don't eat that much bread anymore, for one thing, but I can't just, I would be in the kitchen the entire day if I made everything from scratch.
I know.
And I enjoy doing other things too, so.
Right. So you want to have the time to do other things, and then most people have jobs that they go to 5 days a week and things like that. So
Yes, so that's why when I teach cooking, I try to teach people to make, if they're making something, like if they're going to use the oven, I braise meat for Mexican food a lot, and I know you don't eat meat, but I make huge amounts of it at once, and then I put it into small containers and freeze it so that I can just pull it out of the freezer. And,
okay.
And that's one of those things that I have a lot of shortcuts that I use because I have a huge garden in the summer, and when that starts producing, you can't just say, wait a minute, you've got to deal with it right then.
Right, then it keeps you busy all summer and through the fall too, for that matter, if you're
I know, I always think I'm going to go out of town and camp in the fall, but you can't leave for more than a week because you got to get back to the garden. Those tomatoes just keep coming.
Yeah, and then they get rotten if you don't do something with them when they're ready.
Yeah. So I think one of the things that I really want to push is what constitutes real food. If you could put that slide up, and then we'll talk a little bit about what I have in the bowl here. Get it? So real food is fresh, organic, whole, vegetables, nuts, seeds, oils, seafood, grass-fed and finished animal proteins, coconut and its byproducts, dark chocolate, natural sweeteners. What are natural sweeteners? Agave is the lowest on the glycemic index. Then we have maple syrup around here. We have honey. And I guess we have coconut sugar too. If you've ever used coconut, I like coconut sugar. I don't think it's as sweet and cloying as regular sugar.
Yeah, you can tell just by when you're eating something, a sweet that's a sweet. You can tell if it's refined sugar or one of the natural sweeteners.
It's just, I think that high fructose corn syrup just becomes so cloyingly sweet. I can't even eat sugar anything anymore. It's not me. And then we have developed food, which is what most of us eat. It's produced in a factory, and it can be organic, but usually it's not. Usually it's petroleum infused, and by that I mean the oil that is used in these foods has been produced using petroleum and petroleum byproducts. When they crush seeds and oils, they use petroleum byproducts to remove the oil. That's why you want to eat, when we talked about oils, avocado, coconut, extra virgin olive oil, sesame oil that has been produced the correct way through expellers. Nuts, whole nuts, not nuts that have been roasted with oil. You want dry roast. You don't want. You can roast them yourself.
We always we always get nuts that are raw and have not been salted or had oil put on them.
Because most of the oils, if you look, it's so hard to buy anything in the grocery store. Even you think nuts that have been dry roasted, there's still a little bit of oil in there, and there's salt. And the oil that they use is 9 times out of 10 canola, which is one of the unhealthiest ones that you can eat. Or peanut oil, which peanuts, if it's not organic, peanuts use a lot of pesticides.
Yeah, there's some sort of toxin in some crops of peanuts that I've heard about that it's not supposed to be allowed into the food supply. The peanuts are supposed to be inspected for it, but a certain amount is allowed to get through. So actually, peanuts and things can can cause cancer, I guess.
Well,
Peanuts
anything can cause cancer if you put certain products on them.
Right,
you know?
right.
If you get organic whole peanuts or whole peanut butter or whole nut butters that are organic, that's fine. It's when they put all the petrochemicals on them.
Right.
And plus, they're grown year after year after year in the same fields where they keep putting more petrochemicals on them, more herbicides,
So it gets
more
worse
pesticides.
and worse.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's why it's so important to eat organic things that are sprayed. There's a website, I can't remember what it's called, environmental, anyway, it might be the Environmental Defense Fund. But if you look up, there's the Clean 15 and the Dirty Dozen.
Right, right.
And the Clean 15 are the ones that you can eat with non-organic, non-organic. And that would, I think avocados are on it, and I don't remember exactly. Anyways, and they have a little, you can make a copy of it on your printer and take it to the grocery store with you, because it has, it's just a little one that you can slip in your wallet. Farmed fish is, you should really eat fresh caught fish. Farmed fish is higher in, the water's not as clean. It's not moving, you know.
Right.
Although
right.
there are some farms now that are moving the water more.
Oh, okay.
Animal protein, you should really get grass-fed and grass-finished. And sugars, you should eat complex sugars, and we're going to start talking about that. And preservatives in foods that they use the preservatives to keep them on the shelf forever, and they use, it decreases the nutrient value because they've also been, many of these things have been put through high heat processes. They also add salt and sugar. And the one thing that I was thinking of, ketchup, on the glycemic index, I was looking at that. Okay, so ketchup, the glycemic index is a way to decide which sugars will affect your blood sugar more. So if it's higher on the glycemic index, it'll affect your blood sugar more.
And ketchup is?
Well, ketchup actually, this is interesting because there's the glycemic index, which tells how much sugar there is in something. And then there's the glycemic load, which is exactly what it's going to do to you. So the glycemic load, anything over 10, under 10 is good for you, and anything over 20 would be a high glycemic load. And a glycemic index of less than 55 is considered low, and over 80 is considered, or maybe it's 70, is considered high. And ketchup has a glycemic index of 55, which means it would be a low glycemic index. But it has a glycemic load, how it actually affects your body. It has a glycemic load of 14. So you can't always go by one thing or the other. You kind of have to look at how things affect you.
Well, yeah, when I was reading a book by Dr. Neil Barnard, who's done a lot of research on diabetes, he said that he was comparing like mayonnaise and ketchup and mustard, and he said that mustard should be your condiment of choice.
Mm-hmm. It's very good for you because it has all sorts of, it's a yellow vegetable, let's face it, it's a yellow vegetable seed. So it's got all kinds of anti-cancer stuff in it. But you also have to look and see what they made the mustard with. Did they use the wrong oil? What do they have in it?
Did they put sugar in it?
Yes, yes. So, yeah. So all sugars are broken down into glucose, okay? And our brain and our red blood cells and our kidneys really rely on those sugars. I mean, we would die if our blood sugar got too low. So our brain, our red blood cells, and our kidneys rely on them. But we should be relying on complex carbohydrates instead of the others. All our other cells get energy from fat. So, and it's the most efficient way to energize the rest of your body is using fat, as long as you use the correct fats, if you go back to the second segment we did. So if you put up slide 5 about carbohydrates, So simple carbohydrates are things like cakes, cookies, maple syrup, if you eat a lot of it. Simple carbohydrates are easily absorbed, and they spike your blood sugar. So then they force your body into overtime, really, is what it's doing is. It's like a roller coaster effect. If you eat a donut for breakfast, within 2 hours, you're going to be hungry again because you just ate pretty much pure simple carbohydrates. Whereas if you ate an egg and some fruit, the fruit is a carbohydrate, but it's a complex carbohydrate. And certain fruits are better for you than others at breakfast time. Berries, blueberries, raspberries. I make a smoothie out of them every morning. I use a couple strawberries for flavor, which are a little higher. But that's the kind of, that gives you fiber because you're eating the whole thing, not juice. Juice is very, very high on the glycemic index. And what that does is it causes the feeling of hunger soon after eating, so then you eat more, which leads to obesity, which leads to diabetes, and not to mention mood swings. We've all had those. Whereas complex carbohydrates, it takes the body, I put 2 D's in there, longer to break down. Insulin is it's released much slower. So because it's in your stomach longer, you have a feeling of fullness. It's also your body is breaking it down, and there's more nutrients in complex carbohydrates than there are in simple. I remember in 10th grade biology in high school, we did an experiment with fresh squeezed orange juice and orange juice from a box, and the one in the box had no vitamin C left in it, but the fresh squeezed one had so much vitamin C in it, and then an hour later it didn't have any. That's why it's better to just eat the orange than the juice.
Right, exactly.
Plus you're getting fiber.
Yeah, this morning for breakfast I had an orange and an apple and a banana and 12 grapes. And then I followed it up with a small amount of granola. Mm-hmm. That was my breakfast this morning. But I'm still feeling wide awake here at 11 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I think you should eat most of your sugary calories in the morning because it gives your body more time to adapt. So really we have dessert at night. That's really, and it's not like you should eat a donut in the morning. But if you're going to eat complex carbohydrates that are sweet, such as oranges, clementines, what else? Any kind of berry is better for you.
Yeah.
An apple isn't too sweet. Citrus is kind of on the sweet side, but it also has lots of micronutrients, especially lemons. If you put a lemon in something all day long when you're drinking, just put a little wedge of lemon squeeze in, and that's really helpful.
At our house, we like to split a lemon between each other the first thing in the morning and squeeze the lemon juice and then fill the glass the rest of the way up with water.
That's really healthy. It's a good way to start because it's such good antioxidants.
Yeah.
So I brought a bowl of, can you see it? Which way? There we go. I just dragged this out of my refrigerator. And a friend of mine made this bowl. Isn't it gorgeous?
Oh yeah.
So these are just some things that we don't think of as being carbohydrates. But a carrot's carbohydrates. It has anything, and it has lots of fiber too. That's what else, think about it. If something snaps, okay, it's got fiber in it. And it's the cellulose in all these cells. Now that keeps our gut fed, our microbiota. And our microbiota there are all sorts of gut bacteria in both our small intestine and our large intestine. And those things need fed in order to be healthy. They keep us healthy. That microbiota, if it gets out of whack, we're finding out that that's what leads to a lot of problems with every organ in our body. So I think for years we always think of ourselves as, okay, and I was taught this way when I went to nursing school. The kidney does this does that, and it was like they never really acted like it all worked together. And then when I worked neurotrauma and people had multi-system failure, it was pretty obvious that everything worked together.
Yeah,
So if you think about it, like celery and carrots and bok choy, I had that. We eat a lot of bok choy because we eat a lot of Asian. And what I'd do is I'd just cut off the bottom, clean it, and then I'd throw this into a bag, and I'd put all the peels from the carrot in a bag and just stick it in the freezer, and then when I'm ready to make broth, I use that.
Oh yeah.
Onions and alliums, okay? Alliums are onions, leeks,
Garlic.
scallions, green onions, anything oniony, that kind of flavor.
Right.
I use so much of it to flavor things. I mean, and it's not just flavor. I mean, it's anti-cancer, it's good for your gut, feeds your gut. And it's got lots of cellulose in it, so lots of fiber, so that keeps everything moving.
Yeah,
from
my
one end to the other.
my husband grows garlic.
Yeah, this is the last of my garlic. I have like 10 more from last year.
You grow your own too, then?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then there's a guy we know that lives in Pennsylvania. We exchange Christmas cards with him, and we're always sending each other information about the garlic crops. So.
Well, it's so much fun to grow because they put these scapes up early in the year, and you can cut them and cook them. And I love to put the scapes in flower arrangements. They're so cute. They like swoop around and have all these little loopy-doopy things.
Yeah.
So that's good. Any kind of Asian vegetable it's got green, it's got white. Think of a daikon radish, really, really high in antioxidants. And then I have broccoli here, broccoletta. I love this. It's a very sweet broccoli. It's not a true broccoli. It's actually a Chinese vegetable, gailan or something like Gailan. So I brought that. Cauliflower. And cabbage, broccoli, any kind of broccoli. There's purple broccoli, lime green, there's all different colors. And each time you eat a different color of vegetable, like a beet is full of iron and so is spinach. But the color, you should eat some of each color every day. And the other thing that I've been growing lately, and it's not a vegetable. It's a fungus. We've been growing mushrooms. Now, these are not the ones I grew, but it was really easy. We'd never done it before, and we started them outside on the one side of our house where it's cool. These are great for meat substitutes if you're not eating meat. And I just slice them, and we put them on sandwiches. We put them with a pasta. We put them with just about anything, eggs, you name it, you can cook and add mushrooms to. These are just basic white ones, but they are full of really, really great nutritional value.
We eat a lot of mushrooms at our house. Yeah, they're very anti-cancer. Apparently,
they are. That's another one, and they're using a lot of mushrooms now. They're doing research on to just produce certain kind of antiviral effects.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's very good if you have some kind of a virus thing. And then I brought nuts because nuts are very high in fiber, high in fat, the good fat, plus they're full of nutritional value. Lots and there's some carbs in there, healthy carb. Okay, and the other thing is oatmeal, and you should really eat the oatmeal that is not the flat oats, the rolled oats, but the oatmeal like this, which is steel cut. Takes longer to cook, but if you just think the night before, which I don't always do, if you just put some in a bowl and put enough water over it, let it sit overnight, they cook really fast. Otherwise, they're kind of a pain. You got to sit there and babysit them, and they cook slow.
Yeah.
It takes a while. It takes longer than you think when you're used to using flat oats, rolled oats. So that's what I brought. But any kind of, if you think about it, a complex carbohydrate has a lot of fiber.
Yeah.
It should snap. Yeah. If you're trying to remember which one is the good one and which one isn't, it snaps usually, or it's crunchy, like a whole grain, or a nut, or a seed. And I have a seed mix that I leave in my refrigerator that has hemp seed and flax seed, which I grind, and then some sesame seeds and some black mustard seeds. And I just sprinkle that on salads, and I put flaxseed and hemp seed in my smoothies in the morning. So you kind of get it right there.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
you know.
yeah.
But I mean, you just have to, it's a habit, really. You have to learn the stuff and then, become a habit. That's what it is. What does it take, 21 days or something to start a new habit, I think is what they always say.
I'm not, it might be something like that. I know when I had the thyroid problem, that was, actually, the specialist told me that she was quite sure it was thyroid cancer, and she wanted me to take my thyroid gland out. And I'm thinking, no, I don't think so. And basically, I went to an herbalist for one thing, and that was when I did the couple of months of only raw foods, and then after that it was like 80% raw for a long time, and there were some other things, and well, whether it was cancer or not, I don't know, but it went away anyways. Yeah. But I've still got my thyroid gland, and that was 23 years ago, I think. So I'm still alive. I haven't died from thyroid cancer anyway. Yeah. But the thing of it is people, when they think of carbs, they're thinking of, just the baked goods, and
cakes and cookies.
Yeah, and they're not, I think a lot of people don't really know that vegetables and fruits are carbs.
There's a lot of carbs in cheese.
Is there?
Yeah, which is kind of a weird thing to think, because you always think of cheese as protein and fat, but there's carbs in there too. There's quite a few carbs. In fact, when people go on those keto diets, they're not supposed to eat cheese because of the carbs in it.
Is that right? I hadn't heard that before.
Yeah. And they put them on a lot of coconut too.
Oh, do they?
Yeah. A lot of coconut oils, because it helps increase the metabolism and keeps you full longer. The glycemic index, let me just say one more thing about it. I just have this book at home that I just copied this off the internet. There's all sorts of glycemic index guides, and they're not very exciting looking, but if you're interested in learning more about it, if you just look up glycemic index, and I just printed this off because I use it all the time when I'm working with recipes, so that I can write what the glycemic index is of them. But it tells you, and it even has some things in, some of them have pre-made items too, like they'll go through, but I don't use them, so I didn't copy that part. But it'll tell you, like this is canned grapefruit, fresh grapefruit, cashew nuts, different kinds of cashew nuts, unsweetened carrot juice, things like that. So if you're really interested, just go online. I mean, this thing ended up being 42 pages long, the one I copied. But I use it all the time. But if you're interested in learning more about it, that's really a good thing. And the other one that I brought another book from a woman called Kelly LeVeque, and she's a health guru. She actually worked, she was a bioengineer. Oh. And she had some health issues, and so she ended up getting a master's in nutrition also. And this book is really for a lay person. It's really nice. She writes it out so well. She works with a lot of Hollywood actors and stuff like that that need to lose weight for a certain role or need to get in shape for something. But she has really nice recipes in here. If you've never made smoothies, I think they sell this book at Ollie's for like $4.99 now. So,
I mean, do they?
Yeah. but this is a good book, and it goes through and it tells you, the introduction tells you she was a real sweetaholic and had problems with yo-yo blood sugars. And so she really works hard to show you how to do a healthy diet, excuse me, but living within the parameters that we live in. She goes out to dinner once a week with her girlfriends, and she tells you what you can eat there, but not. I like her diets because she doesn't say, this is the diet and you have to stick to it. She gives you parameters, and that's what I think is important, because nobody can stick to some boring, horrible diet for too long. She has a smoothie in the morning and a hard-boiled egg or something like that for her protein, and then she goes on throughout the day. And she's a nutritionist, and she says, you should eat 3 meals a day, and you shouldn't eat in between because your body needs rest in between. And I think that's a really good book. And then she has a second one. Oh, here's the Allie sticker on it. It was $5.99. She has another second book that says Body Love Every Day. Body Love's kind of, I don't know, it's kind of a foo-foo.
You didn't like it as well as the
I
other
like
one?
both of them. They're both Body Love. That's what she calls them. It's kind of a foo-foo name. It's not like something that would attract me, but I was attracted to her because of her message, not the name on the book. And this has a lot of really good recipes in it if you're not used to cooking. And she has a thing, if you have a sweet tooth, she addresses that a lot in here. She has a thing called freezer fudge, and I make it for my husband. And it's made with coconut oil, and it's pretty good. I'll even eat a piece once in a while, and I'm not a sweet tooth. But it's really easy to make, too. Everything she does is really easy to make. And she does it on the go. She has 2 little kids. She has a business. She goes out once a week with her girlfriend. She's very, very, very good about that. And so if you really are more interested in that, and I'm going to start cooking classes soon too, so if you check my website, it'll be on there. The other book that I really like, if you're busy, is Low Carb on the Go. And I got this at Ollie's too. And it teaches you how to make things to take to work with you, how to stack in a glass jar, so you have a salad. And, I think the nice thing about it is that you could make a whole, 3 or 4 days at a time for what you're going to take to work, and then you'd eat healthy in the afternoon, instead of running down to the deli or something.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it is best if you bring something for yourself. Quite often, even when I'm invited to a get-together, where the person is going to be supposedly supplying all of the food for the meal, I always bring enough of something for myself, because otherwise, especially being on a plant-based diet, us vegans are used to having to take care of ourselves, and we will bring something.
Well, it's hard lots of times that, it's really hard to find something that's healthy to eat in restaurants and stuff. And we just went this time, I always take sandwiches on the way to my son and daughter-in-law's house, and it's a 5.5-hour drive or something, soup in a container or something. And on the way back, I didn't do it, and we were like, oh, what are we going to eat? On the thruway, there's nothing to eat on the thruway,
No.
Yeah. I just had to leave earlier than usual, so I didn't get it done.
I have a friend who, when she has to travel, she goes down south somewhere to visit friends, and she tells me she always takes grapes with her so that she won't have to drink a lot of water and spend a lot of time stopping.
It's true, if you eat fruit the whole way.
Stopping at rest stops. she goes, I keep my mouth moist, keep my mouth from being thirsty without having to stop to use the restroom
Yeah.
all the time.
Yeah,
So,
fruit is definitely full of water.
yeah.
Yeah.
And in fact, I have heard that plants are the best water filtering system that there is.
Well, think about those saguaro cactuses in the desert. All those cactuses, they store it all.
Yeah.
But yeah, but I mean, if you keep a couple of little bags of nuts, I buy those silicone bags that are reusable, you know, so that you're not getting plastic in. And I keep a couple of bags of nuts in my purse, and I usually, if I'm going somewhere, I just grab some celery sticks and carrot sticks and a piece of fruit and that, because it does make a big difference.
You know, what's funny about celery and carrots that I've noticed is when you're eating them, they make the inside of your mouth feel clean.
I know, they do.
They're really good that way.
Well, celery and parsley are such, they just remove water from your system. They're diuretics, you know.
Are they?
Yeah. And so is ginger, because I drank some ginger something one day, and I was definitely cleansing. I was on my way to go to the bathroom a million times. So if you get puffy or anything, eat some celery or some parsley or some ginger.
Well, things that will keep me up at night if I eat them are like really juicy tomatoes and cucumbers and things like that. If I dare to eat them as supper, you know.
Yeah. Well.
So anyways, the kind of carbs that are good for us are not the refined white flour or the refined white sugar or anything like that.
But I think I don't want people to think, oh, I can never have a piece of pizza again. I have to only have cauliflower pizza. I make this homemade pizza crust that's just killer. It's real thin, and it's just delicious. And we have pizza once every 3 weeks or something, you know, but we don't have it every week.
No.
And we don't have it 3 days a week.
No.
So I think if you eat within certain parameters, I mean, yeah, most of the time you're eating stuff that's whole wheat, and most of the time you're eating stuff that's, I mean, wheat isn't really even that great for you. It would be better if you ate whole grains like oats or something like that. But the other thing about wheat is we have hybridized wheat to the point where it's not anywhere near what our ancestors ate. So that's part of the problem. But I don't think, that's why I like that Kelly LeVeque. She says, you know, if you go off track, there shouldn't be any of that food drama like you get when you go to Weight Watchers or something else. You know, just start over the next day and make sure you eat a couple extra clean things in there, you know. But if you're driving down the thruway and the only thing you can get is a piece of pizza that's the healthiest thing there, you know, you get the piece of pizza and you go on your way.
Right.
Eat some extra fruits the next day and don't eat carbs for, you know, like that kind of carb.
Right. You know, when eating sandwiches, the best things to put between two slices of bread, and of course I'm talking about like whole grain bread, is vegetables.
And they're really good too. I mean, if you think about it, you can smush up an avocado, which I guess is typically a fruit, but we count it as both, and put some tomato on it, which is also a fruit.
Yeah.
And some pepper. Or I love shredding carrots and then use them for a day or so. You can, like if you shred 2 carrots, you can put them on a sandwich. You can put them on a salad for dinner. You can throw them in an omelet for breakfast the next morning.
My husband, every once in a while, will make a batch of sauerkraut. And that goes good in sandwiches, is some sauerkraut.
I made kimchi, and it was so good, but it was so spicy.
Yeah.
But it lasts forever. I mean, you make one thing of kimchi, and you're like trying to give it away to everybody. So much of it.
Yeah, Bill Kuick one time, when he was on Fresh Perspectives, he's been on Fresh Perspectives a lot of times, actually. he's been a really good sport about, about, you know, coming on fairly often. And one time he was demonstrating making kimchi and sauerkraut here on the program.
He's a good cook, yeah.
Yeah, and I remember, so then he was having me taste the kimchi, and I'm sitting here, you know, on television, you know.
Well, you either like sauerkraut or you don't like sauerkraut, and that's spicy sauerkraut.
Yeah, that's what it is. But like I said, I do have the problem with with really hot stuff. Mm-hmm. So I guess I just got a really funny look on my face while I was eating it. But yeah, that was kind of nice, you know. He does stuff. He usually makes kind of a mess when he's here, and we have to clean up after him. Especially when he brings in some seedlings that he's just started growing. And
my dining room window is just full. It's like 5 feet wide, 5 feet high, and it's just full of plants. I have a portable shelf there, and I have lights everywhere. So you're sitting there eating dinner, you feel like you're in a greenhouse right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've got some broccoli sprouts in the refrigerator now that I grew on the kitchen counter, and I've got some red clover seeds that I'm sprouting on the counter right now. So
well, if you get in the habit of sprouting, I mean, that's just such a nice thing all winter because I mean, I do microgreens sometimes now. I haven't done them since right after Christmas because I've been traveling so much, but it takes a week and you have fresh vegetables, you know?
Right.
And I was last year, and at the beginning of the year this year, I was growing lettuce hydroponically in this old basement shower that I have. We used to use it for the dogs. But I put it in there so that I could drain it and everything, and I had a water source. And we got a lot. I mean, it takes a while. It takes a month and a half. But if it has 5 rows, so if you do 1 row every week, you have a continuous supply.
Oh, yeah.
But, you know, life gets busy. It works sometimes, and sometimes you don't get around to it. But you can grow your own greens all winter.
Right.
Without much room or much work.
And then we just put the sprouts in all of our salads and our sandwiches.
And they're so healthy. Think about what's in a seed that's sprouted. It's just all nutrition. Just all nutrition.
Yeah, for people who don't normally like broccoli, I do have to say that broccoli, if you just grow the sprouts, they actually taste a lot better than the full-grown broccoli.
Well, I think this broccoletti, if you can find it, if you've never had it, this is really, it's sweet, and you eat the whole stem. I mean, it's very, very sweet.
So it's not too tough then?
No, look, it's like, it's real, it's not like a big, thick stalk of broccoli. And in fact, I take the broccoli and the cauliflower stems and I peel them, and then cut them up and put them in soup.
Oh, yeah.
And then, so you don't have waste.
Right, right. But anyway, it's my understanding that the broccoli sprouts are a lot more nutritious than the full-grown broccoli.
Well, if you grow your own broccoli, really, broccoli is one of those vegetables that you shouldn't buy if it's limp and old looking because it loses its value really rapidly. So you need to really check when it was picked on the carton, you know, or on the container. It should say that. I try to just get broccoli. I think this is probably old, but I love it, so I don't care.
Well, I hate to say it, but we've come to the end of another episode of Fresh Perspectives. And thank you for coming on and making it a different talk, even though it's all on health, for making it a different talk each time.
Well, we're going to do protein next time.
Protein, okay. And I will see those of you in the viewing audience when we do that episode.
Thank you.
You're welcome.